The call from the stars. The crystalline towers of Lumina City refracted sunlight into rainbow patterns across the central plaza, where High Chancellor Valera stood before her people. Her luminescent skin, normally glowing with the soft blue radiance characteristic of the Luminari, had dimmed to a pale flicker. Above them, the once peaceful skies of Lumina had turned dark with the undulating forms of void swarm vessels. My people, Valera's voice carried across the silent crowd, her forearms raised in their traditional gesture of unity. For 10,000 cycles, our civilization has flourished in harmony with the cosmos. We have built our society on understanding, diplomacy, and the gentle arts of creation. She paused, looking up at the darkening sky. But the void swarm knows nothing of harmony. 3 neighboring systems have already fallen. Our defenses cannot withstand their onslaught much longer. Director Thelix, head of Lumina's Defense Council, approached with a data crystal. His bioluminescent cranial ridges pulsed with anxiety. Chancellor, the southern continent has gone silent. 2 million souls. Just gone. The swarm's biotechnology neutralizes our shield harmonics faster than we can recalibrate. Valera closed her 6 eyes briefly. The Luminari had evolved on a world of gentle abundance, their technology focused on creation rather than destruction. Their weapons were defensive by design. Against the all-consuming hunger of the void swarm, they were woefully unprepared. Send the emergency beacon, she commanded. Maximum power, all frequencies. To whom, Chancellor? Thelix's voice wavered. The conclave has already. To everyone, she interrupted, even the fringe worlds. Thelix's bioluminescence dimmed further. You mean? Yes, Valera said firmly. Contact the Deathworlders. The Grand Conclave Station orbited the neutral world of Nexus Prime, its architecture a masterpiece of cooperative engineering by 17 spacefaring civilizations. Within its central chamber, representatives argued with increasing desperation. The Void Swarm has consumed everything in the Cygnus sector, stated Ambassador Quill of the Avian Confluence, his feathered crest flattened against his skull. Our combined fleet was annihilated at the Battle of Helios Gate. Ambassador Genra of the Deltari Republic rose from her seat, her scaled skin catching the chamber's light. The Luminari distress call is clear. Without immediate intervention, their entire civilization will perish within days. Her tail lashed with barely contained emotion. We must consider all options. We have no options left, shouted the Voxian delegate, their crystalline form vibrating with frustration. Our weapons are ineffective. The swarm adapts to everything we deploy. Genra's vertical pupils narrowed. There is one option we haven't considered. The chamber fell silent. The humans, whispered Ambassador Quill, as though the very word might summon them. You cannot be serious, said the Mechanid representative, their optical sensors flashing. Terra is classified as a Category 9 hazardous world. Its inhabitants evolved amid constant predation, geological instability, and extreme climatic variation. Precisely, Genra replied. They are survivors of a world that tried to kill them at every turn. The humans have waged more wars against themselves in their brief history than most of our species have in millennia. They're unpredictable, argued the Voxian, dangerous. Yes, Genra acknowledged, and right now we need dangerous. Earth's orbital command station hung in low orbit, its utilitarian design reflecting humanity's pragmatic approach to space. No aesthetic flourishes adorned the station, just armor plating, weapons arrays, and communication antennae. Inside the command center, Captain Nikolai Volkov studied the holographic transmission with intense gray eyes. At 53, his weathered face bore the scars of 3 interplanetary conflicts, and his close-cropped hair had gone silver at the temples. Play it again, he ordered. The alien message flickered before him once more. A desperate plea from a species humanity had never encountered, translated by Earth's advanced language systems. This is High Chancellor Valera of Lumina. Our world faces extinction at the hands of the Void Swarm Collective. Our weapons cannot stop them. Our people are dying. We appeal to any civilization with the capacity to help. Please, we have children. The message continued with technical data about the swarm's capabilities and Lumina's coordinates. Colonel Wei Zhang, Volkov's second-in-command, reviewed the tactical data with a frown. Organic hive mind with rapid adaptation capabilities, she noted. Their ships are living organisms, not constructed vessels. Interesting. The Galactic Conclave is asking for our help, Volkov said, reading through the accompanying diplomatic message. That's a first. They must be desperate, remarked Chief Tactical Officer Jackson. The Conclave has kept us at arm's length since first contact. Volkov straightened, decision made. Contact STRATCOM and the UN Security Council, then begin mobilization of the fleet. Zhang raised an eyebrow. Sir, this isn't our fight. Today it is, Volkov replied. If this swarm consumes its way across the galaxy, eventually it reaches us. Better to meet it on someone else's doorstep than our own. Within hours, Earth's response machinery rumbled to life. Military installations worldwide shifted to high alert. Orbital shipyards buzzed with activity as vessels were armed and retrofitted. In the assembly halls of the Luna Military Academy, Lieutenant Amara Akafer addressed her battalion. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice carrying across the room of battle-ready soldiers, we're about to engage an enemy unlike any we've faced before. The Void Swarm isn't coming for our resources or our territory, it's coming for all life. She activated a holographic display showing the swarm's bioships and drone warriors. These creatures have defeated 17 advanced civilizations. They think they've seen everything the galaxy can throw at them. Her smile was predatory. They haven't met humans yet. Ambassador Zhenra's diplomatic vessel approached Earth's orbital defense grid with caution. Despite the emergency authorization codes provided by the Conclave, the human security protocols were intense and thorough. Ambassador, came the human controller's voice, maintain your current vector. Deviation will be considered hostile. After 30 minutes of scans and verification procedures, Zhenra's ship was permitted to dock with orbital command. The station's interior surprised her. Unlike the elegant, curved architecture favored by most spacefaring species, the human facility was all sharp angles and exposed functionality. Everything served a purpose. Nothing was merely decorative. Captain Volkov received her in a spartanly furnished conference room overlooking Earth. The blue-white planet rotated slowly beneath them, deceptively peaceful from this altitude. Ambassador, Volkov said, extending a hand in the human greeting custom. I understand time is critical. Zhenra hesitated before taking his hand. Contact with Deathworlders was rare, their strength was legendary among galactic species. Captain, she replied, the Conclave appreciates Earth's willingness to respond. Let's be clear, Volkov said. The Conclave has spent 20 years treating humanity like a dangerous pet, too volatile to be given full membership, too useful to ignore completely. He gestured to a holographic display showing Earth's assembled battle fleet. Now you need our particular talents. The Luminari are a peaceful people, Zhenra explained. Their technology is advanced but defensive in nature. They cannot stand against the swarm. And the Conclave's fleets. Decimated, our weapons are sophisticated but the swarm adapts quickly. Each engagement teaches them how to counter our technology. Volkov's expression hardened. Show me what we're facing. Zhenra activated her data crystal. Images of the Void Swarm filled the air between them, massive organic ships consuming entire worlds, insectoid drones stripping cities bare, civilians fleeing in terror. 17 worlds have fallen, she said quietly, billions dead. Volkov studied the footage with cold professionalism. Biological entity, collective consciousness, he mused, reminds me of the Argentine ant supercolonies back home, one organism, multiple bodies. He turned to a communication panel. Zhang, tell R&D I want bioweapon options. If these things are one organism, they'll have the same vulnerabilities. And get me General Khatri at orbital defense. Zhenra felt a chill. Captain, the Conclave prohibits biological warfare under. Ambassador, Volkov interrupted, if you wanted a civilized response, you shouldn't have called Earth. We'll fight this enemy our way or not at all. The silence stretched between them. How quickly can you deploy? She finally asked. Main battle group departs in 6 hours. Advanced scouts are already en route to the Lumina system. So fast, but your fleet wasn't even mobilized when. Ambassador, Volkov said with a thin smile, Earth has never fully demobilized since we reached the stars. We've learned that the universe is rarely peaceful. On the surface of Lumina, the last strongholds were falling. The crystalline cities that had stood for millennia crumbled under the relentless assault of void drones. In the central command bunker beneath the capital, High Chancellor Valera received the news with dwindling hope. Northern continent has fallen, reported Thelix, his voice hollow. The coastal cities are overrun. Refugee transports are at 300% capacity. What of the Conclave response? Valera asked. Nothing from the Conclave fleet, he hesitated. But we're detecting unknown vessels entering the system, configuration unlike anything in our database. The sensor display showed a formation of ships moving with military precision, angular, heavily armored vessels bristling with weapon systems. Open a channels, Valera ordered. The communication screen flickered to life, revealing a human face, a species the Luminari had only heard about in Conclave warnings. High Chancellor Valera, Captain Volkov said, Earth Defense Force responding to your distress call. We've analyzed your situation and are deploying countermeasures against the swarm. Hope, fragile but real, flickered in Valera's bioluminescence. You came, she whispered. We came, Volkov confirmed. Now evacuate your civilians to the designated safe zones. Things are about to get messy. Above Lumina, the human fleet spread into attack formation. Unlike the elegant ships of the Conclave races, these vessels were built for one purpose: war. As the Void Swarm turned to meet this new threat, the humans launched their first salvo. The battle for Lumina had begun, thunder from the stars. The void above Lumina erupted with fire as humanity announced its arrival to the galaxy. All ships weapons free, Captain Volkov commanded from the bridge of the EDF Dauntless. Execute Operation Thunderclap. The human fleet's first salvos weren't the elegant energy weapons favored by Conclave species. Instead, they launched what appeared to be simple metal rods, tungsten penetrators accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. These primitive kinetic weapons struck the lead swarm bioships with devastating effect. Direct hits across all targets, reported Tactical Officer Jackson, her eyes fixed on the display. The swarm's organic hulls offer minimal resistance to kinetic penetration. On the view screen, Volkov watched as the first wave of penetrators punched through the swarm's largest vessels, creating catastrophic decompressions. The Void creatures had evolved shields designed to counter energy weapons, but they had no defense against simple physics delivered at relativistic speeds. They're adjusting formation, Zhang observed, attempting to present narrower profiles to our weapons. Volkov nodded, as expected, implement phase 2. Throughout the human fleet, weapon bays opened to deploy swarms of autonomous combat drones, small, agile machines programmed with predatory algorithms derived from Earth's most efficient hunters. The drones moved with the coordinated precision of wolf packs, targeting the bioship's sensory organs and propulsion systems. Ambassador Zhenra watched from the command deck, her scaled skin pale with shock at the cold efficiency of human warfare. Your species fights differently, she managed. We fight to win, Volkov replied without looking away from the tactical display. On Earth, predators that hesitate go hungry, prey that hesitates gets eaten. The Conclave has rules of engagement. And how well did those rules protect the 17 worlds the swarm has already consumed? Volkov's voice was sharp. This isn't a diplomatic negotiation, Ambassador. This is extinction versus survival. On Lumina's surface, Lieutenant Amara Akafer led her battalion through the crystalline ruins of what had once been a cultural center. The beautiful architecture lay shattered, its fragments crunching beneath the heavy boots of human soldiers. Perimeter established, she reported through her command link, beginning civilian evacuation. Her troops moved with practiced efficiency, their powered armor making them appear like giants next to the slender, bioluminescent Luminari civilians they were escorting to safety. Unlike the elegant defensive technology of the Conclave races, human battle gear was brutal in its pragmatism, designed to enhance strength, speed, and lethality. Hostile contact northeast quadrant, warned Sergeant Dmitry Korovich, his weapon already tracking movement among the ruins. Swarm drones incoming. The Void drones emerged from the shadows, chitinous exoskeletons gleaming, multiple limbs ending in organic cutting tools. They moved with insectoid speed, their collective mind coordinating a perfect encirclement strategy. Akafer assessed the situation in an instant. Hammer and anvil formation, heavy weapons forward. Her soldiers pivoted into position without hesitation, creating killing zones that channeled the approaching drones. When the swarm attackers charged, expecting their superior numbers to overwhelm the humans, they instead encountered a disciplined response born from millennia of terrestrial warfare. Fire, Akafor ordered calmly. The human weapons discharged not elegant energy beams, but hypervelocity projectiles, incendiary munitions, and fragmenting explosives designed to create maximum biological trauma. The first wave of drones disintegrated in the barrage. A luminary scientist named Alovis, who had been helping direct civilians to the evacuation point, stared in horror and fascination. "Your weapons," he said to Akafor during a brief lull in the fighting, "they're so physical." "Energy weapons are clean and precise," Akafor replied, reloading her rifle with practiced movements. "But life evolves to survive energy inputs. Every organism on Earth has adapted to survive fire, radiation, electricity, but nothing evolves resistance to having its molecular structure physically torn apart." As if to emphasize her point, a human soldier unleashed a barrage from a rotary cannon, the sheer mechanical force of the projectiles reducing a group of charging drones to scattered fragments. Alovis's bioluminescence flickered with realization. "You're not just soldiers, are you? Your entire species is." Specialized in survival, Akafor gave him a grim smile. "Welcome to the reality of evolution on a death world." In orbit, the battle had entered its third hour. The swarm was adapting, as it always did, changing its biological structure to better withstand kinetic impacts. Several human vessels now bore the scars of counterattacks, their hulls breached by corrosive biological weapons. "The swarm's learning curve is impressive," Zhang noted, reviewing the tactical data. "Their new vessels have developed layered chitin armor and shock-absorbing tissue structures." Volkov nodded. "Time for our next surprise. Signal the Prometheus to move into position." The EDF Prometheus, formerly a scientific research vessel, broke formation and advanced toward the center of the swarm fleet. Its modified hull bristled with deployment pods rather than weapon systems. "Prometheus in position," reported Communications Officer Diaz. "They're requesting final authorization." Volkov exchanged a glance with Zhang, then nodded. "Authorization granted. Deploy Nemesis." Ambassador Zhenra looked up sharply. "Captain, what is Nemesis?" "Nature's evolutionary mechanisms exploited for strategic intervention systems," Volkov replied. "Or in simpler terms, Earth's deadliest microorganisms engineered to target the swarm-specific biology." Horror dawned on Zhenra's face. "You created a biological weapon." "We created a countermeasure," Volkov corrected. "Based on the swarm samples your conclave provided, our scientists identified cellular vulnerabilities common across their collective. We've weaponized a modified prion disease from Earth, something the swarm has never encountered and therefore has no defense against." The Prometheus released thousands of microscopic delivery systems into space, each one programmed to attach to the swarm's bioships and inject its payload directly into their cellular structure. "This violates every principle of interstellar warfare the Conclave has established," Zhenra protested. "The principles were established by species that never had to fight for every step of their evolution," Zhang replied. "Humanity didn't climb from the primordial ooze by playing fair. We survived by being adaptable, ruthless when necessary, and always prepared for the worst." Within minutes, the effects became visible. The swarm's coordinated movements began to falter. Bioships drifted out of formation, their control systems degrading as the engineered prions corrupted their neural pathways. "Nemesis is spreading through their collective," reported the science officer. "Their hive-mind connection is breaking down." Volkov leaned forward. "All ships press the advantage, target their command nodes." On Lumina's surface, the human ground forces witnessed the effects of Nemesis firsthand. The Void drones, once moving with perfect coordination, began to twitch and falter. Some attacked each other, their collective consciousness fractured by the biological agent. Akafor's battalion pushed forward, reclaiming territory block by bloody block. Unlike Conclave forces with their clean, precision tactics, the humans fought with adaptive brutality, using the environment itself as a weapon, setting traps, and employing tactics that would have horrified more civilized species. In the central government complex, Akafor's team located High Chancellor Valera and the remaining Luminari leadership. "Chancellor," Akafor said, saluting, We've secured an evacuation corridor to the spaceport. Our dropships are standing by. Valera's 6 eyes blinked in astonishment. Her world had been on the brink of annihilation just hours ago. Now these strange, fierce creatures from a distant Deathworld were turning the tide. "Lieutenant," she said, "your people fight like nothing I've ever witnessed." "We fight to win," Akafor replied, echoing Volkov's earlier words. "Now please, we need to move. The swarm is disorganized but still dangerous." As they moved through the ruined city, Valera saw firsthand the contrast between humanity's destructive capacity and their protective instinct. The same soldiers who unleashed terrifying violence against the swarm treated Luminari civilians with gentle care, carrying children and supporting the elderly with unexpected tenderness. "Your species contains multitudes," Valera observed to Akafor. "Necessity," the lieutenant replied simply. "On Earth, those who couldn't both fight ferociously and nurture their young didn't pass on their genes. We're descended from the ones who mastered both." In orbit, the remaining swarm vessels were in full retreat. Their once perfect formation had dissolved into chaos as Nemesis continued to ravage their biological systems. "They're breaking away at maximum acceleration," reported Jackson. "Trajectory indicates they're heading for the system's edge." "Pursuit course?" asked Zhang. Volkov considered briefly, then shook his head. "No, let some escape." Genra looked at him in surprise. "You're letting them go after all this?" "We want survivors," Volkov explained. "Survivors that will carry the message back to their collective. Earth is not to be trifled with." His gaze hardened. "Sometimes the most effective weapon is reputation." The ambassador studied him with new understanding. "Your species thinks differently than ours." "We had different teachers," Volkov replied. "You evolved in harmony with your worlds. We evolved in constant battle with ours." He gestured to the viewscreen showing Lumina below. "But today, that difference saved a civilization." 3 days later, the recovery efforts were well underway. Human medical teams worked alongside Luminari healers, treating the injured and beginning the long process of neutralizing the biological contamination left by the swarm. In the newly established Joint Command Center, Captain Volkov met with High Chancellor Valera and the newly arrived Conclave representatives. "The Conclave extends its deepest gratitude for Earth's intervention," said the Voxian ambassador formally. "Without your assistance, Lumina would have been lost." "And yet," added Ambassador Quill, "we must express concern about the methods employed. Biological warfare is strictly prohibited by regulations written by species who never had to fight for their very existence," interrupted Valera, her bioluminescence pulsing with intensity. "My people owe our lives to human methods. Perhaps the Conclave should reconsider its position on warfare when facing extinction." Volkov suppressed a smile. The Luminari were learning quickly. "The Void Swarm will return," he said, bringing the discussion back to practical matters. "They've lost this battle, but their collective spans multiple star systems. Earth is prepared to establish a defensive outpost in this sector to provide ongoing protection." The Conclave representatives exchanged uneasy glances. The prospect of permanent human military presence beyond Earth's immediate sphere of influence clearly made them uncomfortable. "That would require significant amendment to existing treaties," began Ambassador Quill. "Amendment or extinction," Volkov replied bluntly. "Choose." As the discussions continued, Lieutenant Akafor stood on a balcony overlooking the damaged but healing city. Beside her, Alovis the Luminari scientist studied a sample of Earth soil she had brought as a gesture of friendship. "Fascinating," he murmured. "Your world contains more microorganisms in a handful of dirt than our entire planet's ecosystem. Even your soil is competitive." Akafor nodded. "Earth doesn't give anything freely. Every resource, every advantage must be fought for." She looked out at the Luminari civilians beginning to rebuild. But that struggle created a species that doesn't know how to surrender. Below them, human soldiers worked alongside Luminari craftspeople, their contrasting physiologies highlighting the vast evolutionary differences between them. Yet in this moment, they found common purpose. "Your people call us Deathworlders," Akafor said, "as if it's something to be feared. But death is the greatest teacher of life's value. We fight so fiercely because we understand precisely what's at stake." Alovis's bioluminescence brightened with understanding. Perhaps the galaxy needs both kinds of worlds, those that teach harmony and those that teach survival. Perhaps, Akafor agreed. And perhaps the Void Swarm needed to learn that not all species will go quietly into the night. As the human fleet prepared to establish its permanent presence in the sector, the survivors of the Void Swarm retreated to their core systems. Within their collective consciousness, a new emotion emerged, something the swarm had never before experienced in its millions of years of consuming its way across the galaxy. Fear. Fear of a species born on a world that had tried to kill them at every stage of their evolution. Fear of creatures who had turned their planet's deadliest weapons, disease, chemistry, and physics, into tools of war. Fear of the Deathworlders. The message spread through the collective. Earth and its allies were not to be approached. Not yet. Not until the swarm could adapt to counter these terrifying new enemies. On the observation deck of the Dauntless, Captain Volkov and Ambassador Genra watched as construction began on Earth's first extraterritorial defense station. "The Conclave will be watching you closely," Genra noted. "As they should," Volkov replied. "Power always requires oversight." "And what happens when the next threat emerges? Will Earth always respond with such intensity?" Volkov considered the question seriously. "Ambassador, humanity doesn't want to be the galaxy's designated predator. We'd prefer to be builders, explorers, creators. But we'll never forget the lessons our world taught us." He gestured to the starfield beyond the viewport. "The universe doesn't care about intentions or morality or diplomatic niceties. It only respects survival. And humanity has become very, very good at surviving." As the stars wheeled overhead, both human and ambassador contemplated what this new alliance meant for the future of the galaxy. The age of comfortable peace had ended. The age of necessary strength had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, other threats waited, unaware that a species of Deathworlders now stood guard.